Today we are going to look at one of the capture problems in a raw audio capture for a voice recording, captured with an Audio-Technica AT4040 microphone. My name is Lenny B. I help content creators and voiceover artists get clarity on what is actually shaping the sound of their voice recording. And that may be or feel kind of ambiguous, but I think really what I want to point out today is that there's a lot that you can work on and improve in the raw audio capture portion of your audio recording before your equipment, before your microphone, before your audio interface, and before any plugins. Actually, the work that you can do in the raw audio capture process has more of an effect than if you were to buy a boutique $5,000 microphone. It actually makes more of an audio or audible difference. You can improve the audio quality more. I can make a entry-level $100 microphone sound better if my raw audio capture process is correct than if you have an expensive multi-$1,000 microphone and the raw audio capture process, the system that you use, the techniques you use to capture that raw audio before the microphone, if that's got some problems, I can make a cheap mic sound better than an expensive microphone. It's all about the room and the gain structure and mic position and everything. That really is the beginning. It's the foundation of your voice. And all of this is really put together to help you make a better connection with your audience. And let me explain that, because it's really important. If you're a voiceover artist or an actor, your audience is the people that are either going to approve your audition or reject you or hire you for a gig, right? Hire you for that audiobook. That's your audience. Yeah, you want to make sure you connect well with them. And your audience is also the people that are going to be consuming the content that you're creating with your audio capture. If you're a content creator, just like a YouTuber, or you've got an Instagram channel and you're just creating content, or a podcaster, maybe you're trying to attract and retain and grow an audience, you want to make sure you're able to make that strong emotional connection when you're telling your story, when you are communicating your message. That has to be really clear for a couple reasons. When you know your audio is good, you're more confident when you perform. And also, you want to make sure that the lens that your story is being told through, the lens that your emotion is translating to have somebody receive your message and receive your story. And that message could even be a commercial, right? You want to make sure that lens is clear. And audio quality is only a lens that your message goes through. But it's really important because it can ensure, here's the biggest thing. I think a lot of times people think, I wonder if I didn't get this audition, I didn't win this audition, or I wonder if the reason why I'm not getting as many subscribers as I think I should, because my content is great, I wonder if it's because of the audio quality. Maybe it's not up to par. Maybe it's what's preventing me from gaining traction in whatever I'm doing, whatever content I'm creating. That's a big deal. And so when you know that your audio capture and your audio quality and that lens is doing a really good job being clear and allowing your message to come through, and you don't have to worry about that, it helps you perform. You can perform better if you know that that's not a limitation. So that's what I want to help you with, and I think that's really the value in all this today. So we're going to go over a little example. This is kind of an interesting case. He sent me this audio. He's one of my clients. He purchased a custom processing preset, but the initial raw file that he sent me, which is what we're looking at here, I noticed that there was a particular gain problem, and that is something that happens in the raw audio capture initial stages, right? Let me play you a little bit. Now, this is without any plugins or anything. This is the raw audio. Let me play for you an example of the audio, and then I'm going to tell you what really jumped out to me and what you could be listening for. Let's hear a little bit of this.
For example, even just recording this, trying to get to -6 dB, having to turn the gain all the way up on my Focusrite. Immediately when I'm doing that, getting all the flashing of green, picking up background noise.
Two things jumped out to me. Right away, in between his words, I can hear there was a bit of noise. It was more than I would like it to be. But then he actually confirmed this by saying that he has to turn his gain knob, the knob on his audio interface, he has to turn that up all the way to even approach peaking at -6, which is the recording level that I suggest So I went to my favorite website, sweetwater.com, where I can browse through a ton of different equipment, and I wanted to examine this microphone. And the AT4040 actually has a couple of switches on the back of the microphone. One is a low cut or a high pass filter, and the other is a pad switch, and that can minimize what the microphone is capable of capturing by 10 dB. That's designed if you're going to be capturing really loud sources. Imagine if this was in front of a guitar cabinet that's just cranked, right? Electric guitar or something. You could possibly turn the gain down all the way, and if it's a really loud source, it's still going to peak. So what you can do, the microphone or a microphone that has a pad switch, you can reduce it. This particular one is a negative 20 dB pad switch, so you can engage the pad. It reduces the amount of gain that the microphone can accept, and so this way you could dial in the gain properly on your audio interface. Well, it turns out this was the issue. He actually had the pad switch engaged, which made him have to turn up his gain all the way to get, actually, even then it wasn't enough to get a proper gain level and recording level for his voice audio, because his voice speaking on the microphone is not as loud as a guitar cabinet or a kick drum of a microphone or whatever. So, your speaking projection volume requires that pad switch has to be not engaged. You need to have the microphone that sensitive to be able to achieve the right type of recording level. So what happens is when you turn up the gain, or when you have to turn up the gain that much, it increases the noise floor, and that's what was the issue. So the whole point in me explaining this to you is, before the plugins, before any of the processing, it's really important. The priority is to make sure you get the raw audio capture solid. You want to make sure you're doing everything you can to capture a clean recording with the proper gain staging before it even hits the digital audio workstation, before it's captured. That doing that, making sure it's right in that raw audio capture stage of your voice recording process, getting that right is going to allow everything downstream to be better. So here's the option, right? I could use, so he's got noise. He's got his pad switch was on. He had to turn up the gain all the way. Sure, I could use an isotope noise reduction plugin to minimize the noise, or I could have used a wave plugin or some other kind of universal audio plugin to reduce the amount of noise. But no matter how great that plugin is, no matter how well I tune it in, no matter how good the AI feature of that plugin is, it's never going to sound as good as if I got the gain stage right. So you have to make sure you identify and find out what's shaping the sound in the capture, the raw audio capture stage first, and then it sets you up to have a really strong foundation. Then we can use the plugins to sweeten and do kind of an artistic shaping of the sound further. It's art upstream instead of using those plugins to compensate for something that you did wrong in the early stage. That is so important to understand that concept. And I think I'm so guilty of this, when we look at videos on YouTube about cool new plugins, and we look at new gear on Sweetwater, or we look at the latest audio interface that has this feature, or this microphone that has this feature, sometimes those can be hypnotizing, and it's fun to look through that stuff, but none of that is going to actually improve your audio, especially when you're capturing voice, and that's what I'm focusing on. Nothing, no plugin or equipment or microphone is going to be able to improve the voice better than if you ensure that your raw audio capture is done correctly. And I think one of the strengths that I have is I can recognize what those raw audio capture issues are. I want to give you clarity. I want you to stop guessing, like, hey, what is it that is making my sound wrong? How come I'm not getting the sound I want? Maybe I just need this adjustment in the plugin. It's usually something that's happening in the raw audio capture, and I can help you identify that. Once we figured out that was the issue and we resolved that raw audio capture gain staging issue, I asked him to send me a new file. And lo and behold, it is much better, much less noise. The gain switch was not engaged, it was disengaged, which allowed the microphone to be more sensitive, didn't have to turn it up all the way. It was in a proper level to where he got much less noise and achieved a much better recording level, and it sounded much better here. Now let's listen to the second submission he sent at the proper gain staged level, without that pad switch engaged. And you can hear there's much less noise in the system.
Hey, Lenny. Thanks again for having another listen to this audio. Round 2. So normal speaking voice, normal distance from the mic.
Here, let me, I'm going to play them back to back so you can hear the difference and, maybe crank up your speakers a little bit and listen for that noise. I'll give you some silence in the beginning. You can hear the difference.
This is my raw voice before processing. I'm speaking normally at my natural distance from the mic. Hey, Lenny. Thanks again for having another listen to this audio. Round 2.
Here's another thing to point out. When you have the proper gain staged level, we're using more of the sweet spot of the gain in his Focusrite interface is what he's using. So now we're in the mid-range level of that preamp, and it also shifts the tone a little bit. It's going to get a better capture. Instead of having to crank that gain, instead of using the fringe edge of your gain's capability in the preamp that he's using, now he's in that sweet spot, and the tone is going to be more focused. It's going to be more, the frequency balance is going to be better, and that is just one of the really important things when you are doing raw audio capture that you want to make sure you get right, again, because it's going to make everything easier downstream. Now, does his recording have some other issues? Yeah, there's some EQ things that we can do, but we're going to address all that. But the main thing I want you to understand, and the main takeaway here in this example is showing you, is that gain staging is one of the foundational things that you have to get right early on in the process in that raw audio capture stage. And if you are really kind of unclear or uncertain about what is shaping the sound of your raw recording, one of the signs is like, I just can't seem to EQ this right, or I can't add the compression to get this to sound right. There's something else going on. I can help you get clarity. I can help diagnose what those are. All you have to do is send me a raw audio file, and I'll take a listen to it, and I can get back to you and tell you, hey, if you've got an issue, let's try to fix and resolve this. Let's look closer at this in your raw audio capture. We want to make sure we get that stable and consistent and the best quality possible for that foundation. Then we can talk about processing and things downstream to make your audio really shine and give you that confidence so you can connect with your audience on a stronger level. If you're trying to figure out whether processing is refining your recording or if it's compensating for something that's happening earlier in your raw recording, that's exactly what these examples are meant to show. And you can submit a raw recording at lennyb.com if you want clarity on what's actually shaping your sound.